Tell us your Franklin story.
Well, I got to Franklin as a young mom with two children and got to buy a house on 4th Avenue South. We bought in downtown Franklin. There was still a chicken coop in the backyard, but it was still a very transitional agrarian community. Farms were being developed, but very, very slowly. I always say, not sure you would have fallen in love with the Franklin I fell in love with. I found Rudy Jordan's house, which she had moved to 2nd Avenue to save it from being demolished, and she was at the Heritage Foundation. So I quickly made friends with her. Danny and Teresa Anderson had D. Roy's at Carter's Court. I got to know them.
I've known Mary since she moved to Franklin. We've been friends ever since and have been through the ups and downs and backwards and forwards. Everything when we started was kind of a battle. We were referred to as the Tea Party group. We had to sell what we were trying to do to government. It hadn't always been wine and roses during this journey.
But in 1985, I got the offer to come back to MTSU and take on this new experiment called the Center for Historic Preservation. Because at that time, 1985-86, they were already starting to plan for Interstate 840. What would that do? And that brings me then to the door of Mary Pearce and the Heritage Foundation of Franklin. Because she was one of the few people really concerned about that. What would that mean? We worked on getting farms and different properties listed in the National Register because that would help protect them from the highway development.
Doing the National Register nominations, getting everything listed on the National Register in Franklin and Williamson County was a very big deal. And we were able to get a grant to look at what needed to happen to embrace growth. That was a big deal at the time. I was involved in the factory at Franklin. It was going to be torn down, imploded for the movie Backdraft. I'm talking to the mayor and I'm throwing myself at the mercy of the court. How are we going to save the factory? And he looked at me in the eye and said, Calvin Lehue. We trust Calvin Lehue. So I beat my little short legs up to Mr. Calvin Lehue's office above Choices, the restaurant they had, and I said, Calvin, you're going to be the one that's going to have to buy the factory.
One day, Mayor Pearce gives me a call and she said, Calvin, we have a problem. They're getting ready to let this film company come in and blow up all the buildings at the Jameson place. Do you have anybody that that maybe would buy those? I couldn't sell it because it was just so horrible looking and all. Every time I would show it, I could see the potential of it. I had been through projects like this before. So I was the highest bidder, $1 million. So I bought it, and no bank would loan me the money. Well, finally, Rick Moody was a close friend of mine. They said, okay, we'll loan you the money if you quit flying experimental aircraft. That was my biggest loss to me right there.
One of the things was getting to work on streetscape in downtown Franklin. When it first started doing it, I was told, little lady, you go back home and feed your children. I was told I was a Russian. I was told we do not need her to tell us what to do with our property.
We came up with a plan that the property owners would pay for the sidewalks. And so that meant convincing the property owners to do this. That was based on linear footage in front of each building.
Mary and Rudy came to see me because if you go out there and look, you were assessed based on how much curb length you had. If you go look at the First Tennessee building, we had the stuff in the front all the way down to 2nd Avenue. So we had the most we're going to have to pay. You weren't going to be the new guy in town and say no. That would have never worked. Mary, who was my landlady, who was my tenant, she'd have been in my office every day until I said yes.
We were looking to expand. We'd gotten bigger than, the four walls could contain in Leapers Fork, and just felt like the next natural place for us to be was in my hometown of Franklin. And Franklin was, something was happening. You could just feel an energy about Franklin coming, and we wanted to be a part of it. When we opened up, it was tore up. The sidewalks were almost impassable, and Mary Pearce just kept cheering me on and pumping me up and say, hang in there, it's going to get better, it's going to get better. And absolutely, it was going to get better. Yeah.
Doing sign regulations, having design review, historic zoning that worked on very hard to get passed with other people. We were told that that would stop economic development here. The development community finally started saying, oh my gosh, this is actually helping development.
And we went to City Hall and said, we need local historic zoning. They said to us, if you get enough signatures from the property owners downtown, then we'll consider this. We'll bring it up for a vote. And so I took First through part of Third Avenue. Mary took part of Third Avenue through Fifth, and we got enough signatures.
The mall was going to be named Park 65. I went to Mr. George Vokert, who was representing the developers, and he said, well, are there other suggestions? And I said, well, I would name it Cool Springs after the Spring House and the Cool Springs house that used to be here. And he decided that was a better idea. I feel like Franklin's charge is Franklin's story of magic. I think had about $67 in the bank and were able to buy the eastern flank with incredible partnerships such as Mr. and Mrs. Rod Heller, who bought it and held it until we could raise the money.
Had no particular tie to Franklin other than friendships and cousins. We invested here and got involved solely because of the threat posed to what is now the eastern flank by a planned subdivision development.
It was a complete threat, and the Heritage Foundation and the Land Trust of Tennessee contacted us directly in Washington.
I knew Mary Pearce back through my work at the National Trust when she was involved in preservation. The city only agreed to buy half the land, and the preservation community stepped up and in various ways acquired the rest.
It was wild to see it happen the way that it did, because I've been traveling here for years and so much had been lost, and there was just apathy. That kind of lit a fire under everybody. There was something also that was happening then. There was this spirit of like real teamwork, like legitimate, not hoisted or forced upon people. Some things just happen at the right time with the right group of people, and Mary was like in that mix. That organic thing that played out now 20 years ago, man, that's like a band that makes their first album. It's the right thing at the right time.
My heart broke when I knew that the West Haven area was going to be developed. I said, that land is just so beautiful, and it's on your way to Leapers Fork, where we were getting traction with conservation easements. I said, we just got to make that special. Andre Stwani and his wife, Elizabeth, spoke at the National Trust meeting, and they've just been in Time magazine, and they did Seaside. And I think that we need someone with that vision to come be part of that project. We were lucky enough to have West Haven turn out to be more of a little village concept, and that is carried on with other developments like Berry Farms, which I think has added to the fabric of Franklin.
I don't think West Haven would be what you see today if it wasn't for Mary coordinating for me to meet Andre Stwani, who taught us so much about how to design and create West Haven. She was all about doing something great and not just trying to stop us. A lot of people just wanted to stop us. Why it became such a lightning rod when we were getting West Haven approved is because it was so big. If they had succeeded in stopping us, it would have gotten developed one little piece at a time, a bunch of little neighborhoods probably that weren't connected. We don't do anything today that doesn't look like West Haven, and why would we? You know, I'm getting close to retirement age too, and I care more about creating these great places than I do about making every last penny.
If you look at the awards that Franklin has won, it's usually centered around historic preservation. It's not centered around the latest strip shopping center. Do we need those? Yes. But do we need to run just as fast as we can with saving historic resources and protecting community character to not become anywhere USA? Yes, we do. We've got a lot of people that are natives here, people that move here, that want to be part of saving and protecting what we've saved so far and expanding that footprint.
You know, Mary had this vision of some nightlife for Franklin and businesses staying open later in the evenings and on the weekends. And we started building that momentum through the DFA, encouraging how we needed to be open when customers were coming and tourists were coming, customers were coming. So, what else could we do? Save the Franklin Theater. It was just one thing after another that allowed us to get involved in the community. And
the Franklin Theater, we were very lucky that two gentlemen that owned Socks Galore and more were running the Franklin Theater. They were losing money every year, and when it got up to where they were losing $50,000 a year running it as a movie house, they said, we've got to sell it. We just felt like at the Heritage Foundation, we can't lose the Franklin Theater. The theater was in a mess. My colleague, Nancy Williams, and I, one day were going to show it to Nissan to try to get a lead gift for them. We had tried to clean out the toilets upstairs. We had stepped on a couple of squishy little mice, kind of gotten them out of the way. And whatever we did to the toilet, it was in such disrepair that as Nissan is coming in the door, there is a water coming down the steps like a fall. But we got behind trying to work on the theater. We were able to buy it. We were able to buy the pool hall next door from Mr. Mark Bloom, and thank goodness, and raise the money. And we really had a guardian angel, Emily McGidd, who believed in saving it, that came forward to get it in friendly ownership. And the first night the Franklin Theater opened, we had the guys that had been Jersey Boys on Broadway sing "Oh, What a Night." I had made friends with Jake Speck and Matt Logan. Jake had been one of the Jersey Boys, and I said, oh my gosh, what would it take to get the Jersey Boys here? And they said, it would take a place for them to stay and 4 plane tickets. You just couldn't believe that magic was happening here on Main Street. And part of that magic was getting to employ young people. Part of that magic was the businesses opening. We had asked them forever to be open at night, weren't going to do it. But guess what? When it made sense and the crowd was there, they did. It helped the restaurants tremendously. It was just a little engine that could. So that was, I guess, the most beloved project.
Actually, I got into this by pouring beer at the Main Street Festival. I had been a reporter at the old Franklin Review-Appeal and just really admired Rudy and Mary's work. Mary is probably the most tenacious person I've ever known. But, it's all wrapped up in kindness and fun and, some red lipstick.
When the theater was purchased and saved by Mary, I was asked to join the board and to be the owner's rep on the theater. So I got to see Mary in action and the whole board and the community come together to save the Franklin Theater. Mary didn't shy away from anything, and I like a tough project. I found most of the things that are meaningful in life are heavy lifts. Mary has this amazing ability to get people on board. Her enthusiasm, her logic, the way that she approaches people, she reaches into their heart and then ultimately into their pocketbook to get projects funded and championed. You know, even things like the old jail, where a lot of people had sort of a negative, perception of that. Mary was able to get the enthusiasm and the support to move ahead with that project.
Doing the old jail was a great visionary project, but everyone was like, I'm not giving another penny. This is the most outrageous thing we've ever heard of. When you went in the old jail, you couldn't find even a little mouse. You couldn't find a cricket. It was environmentally a disaster. And look at it now. I've been with the African American Heritage Society as a member, and I'm still involved 20-something years later. And we got to do the Macklemore House, and now we're getting to do over the Williams House in partnership with Middle Tennessee State University. They have been the wind beneath our wings forever.
The Heritage Foundation was doing amazing things, restoring things, saving, preserving things that matter, and they were also nationally known for the things that they did. But the African American story was not being told. It was being left out. And they got together and said, we got to change this. Mary got the Heritage Foundation's board to approve them buying the house for the African American Heritage Society. So the Heritage Foundation actually bought it, and Mary was the director at that time. And they deeded it to the African American Heritage Society for $1. So that's how we got the Macklemore House, because Mary Pearce was the director.
First time I met Mary was at a meeting, one of the board meetings, and we were talking, and we was telling each other about their stories, telling everybody. For me, Franklin I grew up during segregation times, so this area, what I call is a city within a city.
Mary is phenomenal. She is a rare species. I'm gonna say, they don't make them like Mary. She is an Energizer bunny. She's in everything, but she gets things done. And that's why her fingerprints are on everything in this community.
She has a passion for history, a certain passion for preserving history. And she doesn't care if it's black, white,
right,
Asian, Native American, it's history. With that little old smile on her face, it's hard to say no.
And the red lipstick.
Yeah, it's hard to say no to Mary.
I guess our magic sauce is always Rick Warwick. I never went to City Hall, that I wasn't prepared, because Rick had me the history, the picture, whatever was needed.
In 1995, the county had gotten the post office, and I helped move the archives, which was upstairs here, moved it into the basement of the post office. And about that time, the Heritage Foundation got to move into one half of the post office. And so I was there at the archives every day. And so Mary said, why don't you come? We got a hallway up here. We'll put a desk in there, and we'll get a computer and a telephone. Well, hell, I'd never had anything like that. So, Rudy got it started, and then she decided to turn it over, and Mary just happened to step right in her shoes. Like a scalded dog, she took off, and she hadn't stopped.
The first time I saw Mary give a formal presentation was at giving Roper's Knob to the city. That was such a wonderful moment, and to hear her speak and to hear the passion, because I didn't really know that much about preservation. So that was really special. I certainly know that Mary's a leader because she got me to do things I didn't think I'd ever do. But it was amazing that the leadership that she had to bring you forward and grow as an individual.
She had immense trust in
Mhm.
all of us.
Yes.
I mean, I smile, and I think I'm very fortunate that I got to watch someone work in the community and maneuver in the community the way she did for all the right reasons. The power of persuasion with Mary Pearce is top of bar none.
I would invite new people to understand the door probably won't close when you move here, darling. There is still going to be more growth, but let's do it in a way that makes Franklin shine.
One of the first times I saw Mary, I said, so I haven't lived here in about 15 years, but I grew up here. and I really love what you've done with the place while I've been gone. I remember when there was places on Main Street that were boarded up because people didn't think it was worth fixing online. It was not nearly the charming, beautiful town that it is now. Mary, for well over 30 years, has shown incredible leadership and vision, and has set the pace. And I was energized by that. And I just kind of wanted to be a part of it.
And so Mary was always a head in the stars, feet on the ground kind of leader, and she was never afraid to get her hands dirty. And so she was a leader, but she was always right beside you.
But I feel like so blessed that she did hire me because I have like this sisterhood that, you guys are like my best friends, and it's just, she brought us together and we've continued, and it's a whole different, it's amazing.
And she spoke to me eye to eye, always, and always does, and just exudes this warmth and like, you're here, you're part of the team, you're part of the family, and let's do this thing.
Before I knew Mary by reputation. I mean, she's someone who, at the same time, knows not to bring a knife to a gunfight, but she also knows that, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. She's got that incredible spirit, and she really moves people to do things that are good for the community. And she does it for the community. She doesn't do it for Mary. The Land Trust partnered with Mary and the Heritage Foundation preserve things like Harlansdale. She was so important to that. You think about the eastern flank and Carnton, and you think about the character of Leaper's Fork. Her fingerprints are all over those three sort of special places here in Williamson County.
I was told you are stopping economic development, and I always somehow in me knew that economic development mattered too, and that we needed the two. We needed the preservation, we needed the economic development, and we needed to learn how to dance together. And I guess it was just a whole lot of persistence and more people believing that that was what Franklin needed to do.
In tourism, I've seen a lot of cities especially, but places grow and lose what makes them special. And one of the things that makes this community special is that sense of preservation, that sense of community that has been cultivated over so many years is something people are flocking to because they don't have it where they're coming from.
Yeah, and I think Maureen's exactly right. Preservation is so integral to the work everybody does in this community of making this a great place to invest for businesses and for families. I think that's what has set us so far apart, because we did it when it wasn't the cool thing to do. We did it when it wasn't popular, and now communities are coming here to emulate us. The work Mary has done set all of us up to be successful for the next 10, 20, really 50 years. And I think preservation is not just complementary to economic development, it is necessary for economic development. And Mary really understood that.
I believe that the main reason you want historic preservation is for the livability of the citizens. It's great to have tourists. They are saving us tax dollars. We want them, but there are lots of people in Franklin and Williamson County that can't afford to travel everywhere. And those people need to have a great time right here every day.
When we moved here in '74, there were at least a dozen buildings empty on Main Street. Well, Rudy asked me to consult with property owners, and that's what I've done through the years and continue doing it. And I'm still consulting with Mary on, she's something else, on a number of projects. We've got 4 or 5 going. So they had a vision of what Franklin could be like, saw it through. I was on the board in the early 80s, worked a lot on streetscape. Some of the property owners objected. Most were all for it, and they could see, what it would do for Franklin, and it made a major impact. Encourage building owners to restore their facades. In turn, it created interest in people wanting to be down there. The momentum has been unbelievable. We spent a lot of time on the old theater and the old jail. They say that if you have a good theater, that's a key part of your downtown.
I ran for office in 1999. At that time, Boma was so inter-focused on themselves and the city, they had no concept of preservation. But thanks to the environment that Mary Pearce had cultivated for years, when folks like Pam Lewis joined me in my second term, we then had the support. And that was the first time that Franklin City ever supported preservation. We would not have Hardinsdale Farm without Pam's vote. We would not have the Eastern Flank without the other aldermen's vote. That didn't happen.
Domino's,
by
Pizza the
happenstance.
Hut, Collins Farm, that all happened.
Yeah.
3 historic overlays while we were in office. I think also the phrase quality of life is used a lot. And so part of this is connectivity and offering the citizens of Franklin a great quality of life. You've got to grab it when you can, and you have to, when you're working with the development community, on the front end, you have to talk about open space and historic preservation, if there is preservation within an area that they're building.
To please understand, this didn't happen by accident. We don't have to shut the door to stay historic Franklin. We have more and more opportunities. Look at places that matter and continue to create a vision that is extraordinary to save those places and make them part of our future.
Mary's impact's been huge. I kind of compare her to Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. If you just look, if she hadn't been here, it would have been a nice town, but it wouldn't be what it is today.
If I were a puppy dog with muddy feet, there would be a lot of paw prints of mine everywhere. My disclaimer is I never did anything by myself. I always had other people helping. So when I say I was involved in it, it was with a whole lot of other people. We had an incredible sales team. It's people like Robert Hicks, Julian Bibb, Rudy Jordan, the pioneers of Main Street, Calvin and Marilyn Lehue, you just name them. We stand on the shoulders of people who did a great, great sales job for historic preservation. Have fun, whatever you do. Life is short and sweet. Do what your passion is. I've gotten to do that.
Mary, one of the smartest things I have ever done was to take that first phone call from you and come to Franklin. You helped to transform my career, but more importantly, you created tons of opportunities for 2 generations of students. Your influence isn't just in Franklin, but it's also through those students across the nation.
Mary, keep going. Don't stop. We need you.
Mary, you've been a great leader. The community is in your debt.
Yeah, keep it up.
Keep going, kid.
You're my hero, Mary. I wore red lipstick for you.
There are so many people that have never met her, probably don't know anything about her, and they benefit from her work. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for just being who you are.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you.
Thank you for the work you've done, laying the foundation that frankly makes my work so much easier.
Thank you for the inspiration, and she's someone I look up to and hope to be like someday.
You always have to have your red lipstick when you go into battle.
You are a fantastic young lady. And just keep on doing what you're doing, because without you, I don't think Wilson County would have preserved the history that they have now.
Amen. Love you, Mary. You know that.
I can look at numerous great things that have happened in downtown Franklin and just know if it weren't for Mary, that wouldn't have happened. I just love her to death. You know, she feels like family after all these years.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for not only your friendship, but what you've done for this great community. You are a treasure to all of us.
And I like to say, thank God for you and hope the best for you always.
Hi, Mary. It's Andy. You have made a difference in the lives of so many. and as a Somerset native, you have represented Kentucky so well. I wish you all the best in your next chapter. It is well earned. Congratulations and take care.
Congratulations, Mary. You've been a force behind historic and open space preservation for 4 decades now. I remember well working with you on a lot of projects. You changed your community's commitment to preserving its past. You saved places that are important to the soul of the community. And most of all, you created a love in Williamson County for its beauty and its history. Your recognition tonight is very well deserved.
Mary, you're an all-star. You're relentless, you're a leader. You've done a tremendous job for the community of Franklin. And what we have now is, in my opinion, one of the nicest towns to live in the entire country, and that's Franklin, Tennessee. My compliments, Mary.
Hey, Mary. I wanted to thank you for everything that you've done for Williamson County. The ripple effect of that is going to be felt for generations, way beyond all of us. I wanted to tell you that I love you and that I respect you, and I wanted to thank you for being such an incredible mentor.
Thank you, Mary. We love you. I'll follow you anywhere you go.
Thank you.